Hey folks, I'm Chuck Black. We're doing Quokka Prime from scratch. Today's topic is monitoring those hosts that we've discovered and stored. Okay, so now we're going to do the actual monitoring part. We've done the discovery, and this part that I had highlighted there, that while loop, is where we do monitoring in the host monitor application. So we need to do something like that. The first thing we're going to do is have a while loop that says while true, so we will loop forever until that keyboard interrupt happens. Now there's a whole lot of stuff that's more advanced going on in the real program. We're not going to do that. We're just going to use this ping host functionality and call that in order to ping all of our hosts that we have discovered. So I'm going to create a function called ping hosts, and I'm going to pass in this dictionary of all of my hosts, and then after I've pinged them, I will print them. So now I have my loop created. I need to create my function called ping hosts. So let's go up and do that, and we'll put it right above main. I'm going to define ping hosts, and it's going to pass in the hosts dictionary. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through every host in that host dictionary. Now there's a bug there. I need to put host.value, but we will run into that in a little bit. And what I'm going to do for every host is I'm just going to ping that host. And that's basically the functionality of ping hosts. So that means I now need to create a function for an individual host called ping host. And that's what I'm going to do. The parameter is going to be the host. And right now I'm just going to say pass because I'm not going to complete that just yet. We'll be looking into that functionality in just a minute. So let's write our ping host code. Now the ping host that I do in Quokka Prime, I'm using this subprocess package and I'm calling check output. This is the one main way that I found to do it. It seems to be quite useful and effective, and it hasn't let me down yet. So I'm going to use this functionality, this method that I can call. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just copy the parameters that we pass in. You can look at the lesson on this if you want more detail. But basically, this is going to do a ping, a count of 3, etc., etc. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set availability to true. Now, why am I doing that? That's because if it fails, it's going to throw an exception, and we're going to add that code in a minute. If you look on the right, you'll see I have a try except there. But if I get to these statements right here, then I can set the availability. I'm not going to do the response time right now because that's complicated. We'll do that in a bit. And I'm going to set last heard equal to the current time. And as always, as I've done in other cases, I'm going to try to subtract the last 3 digits of that time. And I have a typo there. It should be -3, but we'll get back to that later. Anyway, back to my try except. I'm going to put my try except around this now. So I need to indent this. I'm going to do my except clause, and my except clause, the exception I'm looking for is subprocess.called process error. That's just what it is that we call. If I hit this, then my availability I know is false. So this is what happens if the ping fails. And so this is the code that's going to help me to know if my host has been monitored successfully. Now for my testing purposes, I'm going to put these print statements in there. We will be taking these out later on, and you'll see why when we get to it. But yeah, that's our ping host functionality. Okay, now let's find the response time from that ping output. You can see what I did in the regular host monitoring. So I'm going to go ahead and call get response time, even though I haven't written it yet. And I'm going to pass in the ping output, which I need to coerce to a string. Now you can see that I haven't written that yet, so I need to create my function called get response time. And I'm going to take this ping output as the string. And now what I'm going to do is regular expression stuff. You can see that's my code right there. If you want to learn about regular expressions, you can look at the 52 weeks of Python stuff. I'm going to search for a string called time that has time equals. And then I'm going to look for digits that come after that. That's going to be the actual response time, some number of digits. And so that is my search, my regular expression search. Now, I have not imported regular expression. This time string that you see right there is going to look better once I import regular expression. The string that I'm getting it from is ping output. That's what I'm putting at the end there. So the next thing I need to do is I'm going to need to import regular expression. The way that I'm doing it in my other code is import regular expression. So let's just go ahead and add that. And once I've added it, PyCharm will eventually become aware that I'm doing a regular expression search, and you can see my R string is a little bit more intelligent with the yellow for certain special characters, etc. So what I'm going to do with my match, that's M, is I'm going to extract the first group. I want to look at it and I'm going to say, is it numeric? Because if it's not, and I try to turn it into a string, then it will cause an exception. So I'm going to say, if it is numeric, then I'm going to do a float of that very thing. And if it is not, I'm going to actually divide it by 1,000 first. And then if it's not, I'm just going to return 0, because that means that I did not successfully use a regular expression to get at my response time value. Okay, so let's look at what we've got. You see we have our while loop. Now if I left it like this, it would just continually do all the monitoring without even pausing in between. So I want to do a little bit of sleeping in between my polling of these devices. So I'm going to use sleep, and I need to import it, of course, as we tend to have to do. So I'm going to say from time import sleep, and when I go back down to the bottom, we should see that sleep is, there it is, it's now, PyCharm is aware of it. So I've written a little bit of code. It's time for us to test it and see whether it works or not. As you can see, I've done that, and there is an error. And so you can see down there at the bottom, type error, string indices must be integers. I've actually seen that before because I made this error before. In my for loop, I have a host, which is a dictionary. I need to do dot values in order to iterate through that as a list. So that is one thing that I'm going to change and make better. And I'm also going to print hosts after discovery. That will look a little bit better. So now I've printed things after the discovery, and it seems to be successfully going out and pinging the devices. And this actually ends up taking quite a while for it to do that. I'm not getting a lot of good feedback. Now I do, and I don't like the way that that feedback looks, but at least it is going out and pinging the stuff. Now this looks good, except for if you look over last heard, it seems like I've clobbered my last heard value. So I've got a bug there. It turns out I used a :3 instead of a :-3 just to get rid of the last 3 digits of that timestamp. So let's go ahead and run it again. And sure enough, you can see, number one, that it is showing the right last heard value, and I also modified pinging of the host so that it actually looks correct now. So I'm getting a little bit of feedback, which is a good thing, especially when I'm testing, so I can see what's going on. So this is actually looking pretty good. I have my last heard, I have it pinging, and we're good to move to the next stage. Now we've gone through the process of calculating the response time, but we're not printing it out yet. So I'm going to go ahead and use this open TCP ports column that we had before. We don't have open TCP ports at this point in time, so I'm going to use it for printing out the host response time that we spent all that time to calculate. Now when I say colon and then greater sign means write justify it. 7 means use up 7 characters in order to do that. And now up here on the header for the column, I have to try to make sure that that matches what I did down below when I printed the actual value. And you'll find yourself going back and forth to get the right length, and so that it lines up. For us, it's kind of easy because it's at the very end. But yeah, we'll see what it looks like and see if we like that. So here it is. I've done the discovery. My response time is 0 because that's what I set it to. I haven't calculated the response time. I do that when I do my monitoring, and we'll do monitoring over and over and over again. So the response time will change once I get it. But now I'm going through my ping process, so that's good. And here you see my response time is printed out. It actually looks not bad. It's kind of all the way over there on the right. So I want to actually move it so that it's a little bit further to the left. Well, just a couple characters so that it ends at response time. So let's run it again and see what happens. We're waiting again for my pinging to finish that thing. You can see the response time is already a couple characters over to the left. When you see the full display of the table with the actual response times, then you'll see that, hey, that actually is going to look pretty good, and I think that's acceptable. Now, right now, our output just scrolls forever and ever on the screen. We want it to look like the Quokka Prime output, where it reprints it on the same location on the screen. How do we do that? Well, the way that we can do that is making this sub-process call to clear the screen. So that's a simple command. I'm just going to copy it from print host in the real host display, and I'm going to include it right here. And you can see I'm going to use clear if it's POSIX, otherwise I use CLS. So that is looking okay, except that it doesn't know about OS. I need to import OS. So you can see over here I have imported OS, and so that's what I need to do. I'm going to type in import OS. Eventually PyCharm will get around to looking at it and seeing that, hey, that's okay. Now let's give it a shot and see what it actually looks like. After I type in this password, you'll see the screen is going to go away after the discovery is done, and boom, we've cleared the screen and we've printed stuff out. Now you'll notice I'm still printing out this pinging host, etc. I'm probably going to want to get rid of that because it's just a little bit too much information. It's more for debugging than for anything else. I've made the screen a little bit bigger. When I'm done doing my pinging, there you can see my response times have showed up, and I am successfully doing the clear screen. So that output is nice, but wouldn't it be cool if we had color? So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to make it look like the Quokka Prime output by adding color to it. And so that's what we're going to do right here. Now we're going to first do our if statement to determine what color it should be. Now we don't have as much information as the Quokka Prime stuff does, so we're only going to look for two colors. If it's not available, we're going to turn it red. If it is available, we're going to turn it that bright green color. Now I'm using things, this for, which is something that I can use to do colors, and we haven't added that yet. There you can see that PyCharm has learned about it. I'm adding to my print statement. This is just how you do it. I had to look this up. I had never done it before. This is how you can add color to a line of terminal output, and this is basically the means of doing it. Now I'm going to need to add my import statement, import from Colorama, import for, and so that is going to allow me to specify the colors. Eventually PyCharm becomes aware of it, gets rid of the errors, and now I can come back and we can see if colors are going to work. So I've also removed those print statements during the ping, so you'll see that this begins to look a little bit more like what Quokka Prime does. I'm doing the monitoring right now, but I'm not printing out the result of every one. And eventually it will get done with that, and then you're going to see the colors actually change once we determine availability or not. And there it is. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, here's the last thing we're going to do. You know that cool refresh 6 seconds remaining, etc.? How can we do that? Well, I'm going to take the code that I use in the host display of Quokka Prime, and I'm going to replace our sleep with that. And this is what I can do in order to print out that updating timer as it counts down. That code is something that I found online, so you can look at it. It's not really terribly complicated, but I'm using sys.standardout in order to write over that countdown timer. PyCharm is now happy with it. I'm going to change retrieving host, which is what we said before, to pinging hosts. And let's go ahead and run it again and see if this actually works. So we're doing the discovery once at the beginning, only once. And now we have our nice discovered devices, which are all green, but I don't have a response time because I've only just discovered them. Remember, I'm out doing the pinging in the background right now. I may want to add something that indicates that, but eventually, there we go. Look at the cool colors and look at the countdown timer telling me how many seconds until I'm going to go get the new data. Hey, thanks for watching this episode on Quokka Prime from scratch. I'm Chuck Black. If you do have questions or comments, feel free to leave a message with this video. I'm also on Twitter at Chuck A. Black. If you want to send email with a question, comment, or just to say hi, the email address you can reach me at is python.52.weeks@gmail.com. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel. I hope these lessons are helping you to achieve your goals towards becoming a real software developer. So long for now, and see you at the next episode.